The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, how are we doing? Thank you very much for turning up. Let's just kick this off with the obligatory sound check. Can you let me know that you can hear me and see my screen okay? You should be able to see like an empty Convertri funnel. Yep, excellent. Seems we've got lots of people saying it's okay. Ian, John, Jonathan, Paddy, Pat, Daniel. Yeah, loads of people saying it's all good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So what we are going to do today is we are going to try a live build. And what that means is I'm just going to go in and I'm going to attempt to build a page like entirely from scratch in Convertri and kind of talk you through what I'm doing. Now, the kind of page we're going to be building is a quiz style opt-in. And here is one doing, like I say, this is one I made earlier. This is actually from quite some time ago. We're going to build a page doing this kind of thing. And on this page, you can see it's an opt-in page. It doesn't make any secret of the fact that it's an opt-in page, but there's no form right away. It puts that behind a series of questions. So if I just show you the operation of this, so your lead will come to the page, and they'll say, basically it's saying like we can help you get started, but we've got some questions first. So they click the download now button, and you get asked this first question: how long have you been woodworking? So we'll say like less than 6 months. Are you more interested in woodworking more as a hobby or a business? And we'll go business. Are you more interested in blueprints or theory? So blueprints. And then finally we get the form. So that is the kind of page that we're going to build. Like I'm not going to try and build this. I'm not going to try and clone this. What I'm going to try and do is build a page that's doing this kind of thing to show you how, like if I was just approaching this like entirely from scratch, which I mean, to be honest, basically I am. Like I've got a rough idea of the kind of page I want to build, but I don't entirely know where it's going to go yet. So, should be fun. But it's going to do like the same kind of things. We're going to have a quiz that will lead people to an opt-in. So before we get started, I'll just introduce myself. I am Neil. I'm one of the Convertri co-founders. This is the About page on our website, and I'm the one in that rather fetching red hat. And once we've done the build, once we've put the page together, after that I'll hang around for like a Q&A session. You're welcome to ask me anything you like whether it's about the demo you just saw, whether it's about Convertri. I mean, whether it's about anything else, to be honest. Like Convertri is definitely my specialist subject, but if you want to ask me about the Whiskey Rebellion, then go for it. Like I can't promise I'll know the answer, but I will do my best. And for that, I'll hang around like either until you run out of questions or until my voice gives out, whichever happens first. Basically, the only thing I would ask with that is if you've got questions about the presentation, feel free to ask them on the way through. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box. So if there's anything where you're not sure why I'm doing it, if you want me to demonstrate something again, then feel free to just put the question in the chat. Like I say, I'll be keeping half an eye on it. We'll try and deal with that at the time. If you've got questions on anything that isn't related to the build that we're doing, then I'm more than happy to answer them. Just leave them till the end so we don't get too sidetracked. Right. So before we get started, can I just check what kind of experience level do does everyone here have with Convertri? Like on a scale of like 1 to 10, where 1 is like where 1's like you're only just getting started, and 10 is like you consider yourself like a world-class expert. Like what kind of level do you see yourself at? Cool. That's a good wide variety of responses here. We've got a like there's 1, 7, 6, 1, 2, 7. Yeah, it's a wide range of people. Cool. I'm going to try and make sure this is useful for everyone. Hopefully, it will be easy to follow for people who are like new to the platform, and we'll also like show the experts like a couple of things as well. So let's get into it. So what I've done to start off with, so I've got my empty funnel. I've also got Pixabay open because I know I'm going to need some images, and Pixabay is my favorite place to go to for that. But that's basically all the real prep that's been done. Like I say, this isn't something where I know really what I'm building at the moment. Like it's very much like this is very much going to be a creative process. So we're probably going to be going like back and forth a bit. Like it's pretty likely that we're going to end up changing the design halfway through and that kind of thing. Because I mean, there's to be honest, that's the way that designing pages works fairly often. I find like you get to a point and decide that actually a different font would be better and that kind of thing. And that is like because I don't really have a fixed idea of the page we're going to end up with, like that's likely to happen. And I hope that will be useful to you because you'll be able to see like the process as I'm going through it. But we're all kind of feeling our way here. So obviously in the chat again, do let me know if you're finding what I'm showing useful, or if you'd like me to speed up a bit, if there's anything you want me to skip over. This is definitely new territory for all of us, which anyone who knows me will let you know this is honestly, this is the kind of presentation that absolutely terrifies me because I don't entirely know what I'm doing. It'll be great. So first thing we're going to want is a background image. And we're going to stick to the woodworking niche, I think. So like while I'm not going to try and recreate this kind of page, we're going to stick to the same kind of niche, the same kind of copy. So first thing we're going to want is a nice background. And for that, we are going to go to Pixabay to find an image. Let's stick in woodworking. Now we do actually have a Pixabay API in Convertri. I'm going to the actual site here because if you go to the site and if you like download an image direct from there, you can get a higher resolution. And that's something that, especially for like a big background image, I tend to quite like. It's like a big like 5,000 by 3,000 pixel image isn't really the kind of thing that you're going to normally want on a web page, but because Convertri does all the optimizations and like the images load really fast in any case, like I just prefer to get the highest resolution possible for something like this. So we could maybe go for that one. That's not bad. Maybe I'll try just putting wood in there. See what we can find. That's quite nice. Yeah, let's have a look at our size on that one. Yeah, we've got a nice big 5,000 pixel one on that. And like I said, it's like a 6 megabyte file. Not something that you would usually want in a not something that you'd usually want on a web page, but with Convertri, it's fine. So let's do that. So I'm gonna upload that into the image manager. And yeah, let's add you in. Now, something else I'm going to do on here is I'm going to set this page up as a full width and sized image like this. And I'm going to do this rather than set it as an actual page background, like which you can. If we go to, I think it's in page, and yeah, page background, like we can set it as a background image, so it's just fixed to the page size. Now, I don't tend to use that feature. Like I tend to put my images like as a large element instead. And the reason for that is that when you do it as a page background, it will always be scaled to the size of the browser. And that does look quite nice. But because we don't know what the browser size is, it means that Convertri can't do all of the optimizations that it normally would. Like normally, one of our optimizations is that we scale the image to precisely the size that you've used on the page. Like so it doesn't have to be worked out locally at the user's end, which obviously makes the loading time longer. But if it's set as a page background, then there's no way we can know that size in advance. So we have to like download the entire image and let the browser scale it. So that's why I prefer to do it this way, because this way we can know the precise size and it just makes the loading speed that much faster. A quick question from Damien. Damien says, came in after the demo. What is the result of doing this kind of quiz? I'll just show you quickly like another page like this. So this is the kind of page we're going to be building, where someone comes to the front page, and there's no form here. Like instead, they click the button and they get some questions to answer, and they click through the questionnaire. So in this case, like how long have you been woodworking? Are you more interested in a hobby or a business? Are you more interested in blueprints or theory? And then you get the form after that. And the reason we are building a page like this is because this kind of page can do a really good job of increasing your conversions. Like we've run tests on these kind of pages in the past, and we found, like I think our best result was it increased the conversion levels by 70%, which is like it's an enormous amount. Like you're almost doubling the amount of leads you get from the same amount of traffic. And the reason it does this is it's using a technique called commitment, and it's the same kind of reason that it's often more effective to get an email address and then direct someone to a sales page, rather than just trying to ask for the sale right away, because asking for the sale is quite a big commitment, and if you ask for an email address first, then you get a small commitment and you can lead them on to the bigger one. And the same is true of what we're doing here. For some people, an email address is quite a big commitment. But here, like the first thing they're asked to do, like they're not actually giving anything away. They're just being asked a couple of questions. In this case, like more than 6 months. But that means as they go through the process, like they answer a couple of these questions. By the time they get to the final form, they're like, well, I mean, I've already answered these questions. Like if I didn't actually want this thing, I wouldn't have done that. And so they're more likely to actually sign up. Another thing that we're going to be employing on this page that we make is that you can also tailor the final message to what the user has told you. So if I just go through this questionnaire again. So here, like these first two questions, they don't actually make any difference what people answer. They are only there to get that initial commitment. So we can click anything we want here. We get to the same place. But here, if we click like, are you more interested in blueprints? Then the copy on the form talks about the different blueprints that are included in the lead magnet. See there, it says like contains 15 different blueprints. If instead we say we're more interested in theory, then now it's talking about the step-by-step guides like on the different woodworking techniques and the videos that you get. And that's because, like in this case, the user has told us that is the kind of thing they're more interested in. So that is what like we tell them they're going to get. And the lead magnet will provide both of them, like for something like this. Like you're just focusing on different aspects of the same product to make it more attractive for that particular prospect. And that is one way of increasing the conversions. And as I said, it does tend to be extremely effective. Yeah, Dane, that's exactly right. Micro commitments. And yes, Joel, this is about increasing conversions rather than screening people into separate funnels. Though you could, if you want, screen them into separate funnels with this way. Like that's not what we're going to be doing with this page, but you could use a very similar technique. Like if on the final page, again, we'll just refresh this to get back. If on this final question, if rather than opening a new layer with a form on it, you could use these buttons to direct them to different pages, either with a different sales page for a different product or like an entirely different form. In that way, you could send them into different funnels. So you could do that. That's just not what we're doing with this particular demo. And Damien's asking, can we segment on their choices? Again, that's not what we're doing with this particular demo, but you could do it in the way I just described there. Okay, so let's get back to our build. So again, we've got a nice background. Now we'll stick a panel. Pretty much always when I'm building these, like when I'm building pages like this, I don't worry too much about sizing or positioning when I'm just like adding elements on the page like this. I find it's a lot easier to basically to get your elements on the page and then resize things and then arrange them rather than try and get it like precise from scratch right away. But that's like that looks to me like plenty of space to work with. I think I will make it like that's our standard pale gray background. I'm going to make it entirely white, I think. And we're going to want a headline. So we'll add our text element in. I'll just use the same copy as was on the other page, so save us working out whole new stuff. So let's set up a heading 1 style. Maybe stick to Anton for now. Make that normal, maybe make it a bit bigger, say 40. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll do for now. Now you might have noticed I used default styles when I was setting up like the formatting for that text rather than using like the font and size elements up here. I try to keep a habit of that, basically because certainly on bigger pages, if you've set up default styles, so you're using like the style for the headings and the style for the body text, then if you want to change something, like if you want to change your heading to a different font, then you can just change the style and it changes everything at once. And I find that an awful lot easier for a page like this, where like there's really only going to be one heading, there's only going to be one set of body text. It doesn't really matter so much. But I try to keep into the habit. I'll actually switch element outlines on as well. because it's rather easier to see where everything is going on the page if you do that. Now we're going to want some body text, and again we'll just use the something like this one here. So just bear with me while I type this out. Let's see. Actually, yeah, that's better than just saying where to start. I'll use that again. Yeah, hard to work out how to get from where you are now, having a finished piece you're proud of. And in fact, I'll get rid of the when you're new to woodworking. We don't want to exclude anyone. And actually, once I've finished typing this out, I'll explain briefly like what this copy here is trying to do as well, so you can just so there's a bit of theory about that. What I actually did before I started with Convertri properly was being a copywriter for people, so this stuff is always a bit quite close to my heart. So that's where we can help. There we go. So let's just change the style on that one as well. I'm going to use Lato for this one. Not sure why, but I think Lato is probably my favorite body font out there. It's just like, it just looks very clean, very smart, I think. I'm also going to increase the line spacing. I'm going to try start with 1.6. Increasing the line spacing because I like to have like a fair bit of white space between the text. I just think it makes it easier to read. Yaroslav's asking, does it make a difference if you use heading 1 or just change the size in the top toolbar when it comes for SEO? I believe that like SEO isn't really my strong point, but I believe that Google does look for like heading 1, heading 2 tags, that kind of thing. So I think it does make a difference, but I'm not sure it's a big one. Margot's asking, can you also show us how to include a moving or dynamic progress status bar to the quiz? That is something we don't have an element for in Convertri. If you have a code for a bar, like either from a third party or something that someone's made for you, then you can just add that in with a custom HTML element. I'll show you how to do that. Like that's you can just drag on an HTML element from the Elements toolbar. Then once that's on, click Edit HTML, stick your code in the box that comes up, and that will then display on the screen. I don't have that, so I won't be doing that in this demo. I'm going to be using a rather simpler kind of progress indicator. But that's if you have that code, that's the way you would do it. So just to talk quickly about this copy, what we've got here is saying there's nothing quite as satisfying as holding a freshly turned bowl or sitting on a chair you've made yourself. And that first paragraph is all about making them imagine a future version of themselves, making them imagine a good result. That kind of stokes the desire for what they want. Then you come in with the problem. like it can be hard to work out how to get from where you are now to having a finished piece that you're proud of. And again, the key emotional phrase in that is this last bit, like a piece you're actually proud of. Because I think that's what a lot of people want, especially like hobbyists, people who are like not just in woodworking, like any crafty kind of hobby. Like when they make something, they want to be proud of it. Like, and so by directly stating that, you're directly hitting those emotions. And then the final paragraph, which is really just the call to action, like click the button below and answer the questions. Honestly, this last one isn't really great copy. I think we can probably do rather better, but that's not really the point of this demo. So I'm quite happy to leave that as it is for now. Next, we will need a button. So we'll just drag that on from the Form Elements toolbar. Change the label to download now. I'm going to change the mode to trigger because we're going to be setting an action on that to open the question layers. Let's, yeah, I'll keep you as Lato. We'll make you bold. And now I'm going to want like an image of the report in there. And I've got this mock-up from a page that I've made before, so we'll just use that. Shrink that down a bit. Again, not really like precise sizing. I'm just kind of playing around with it until the until I think it looks good. Now, what I'm going to do with this panel is, I think I'm going to round the corners. Yeah, we'll go. So let's switch the border radius on. We'll make that 20. Yeah, go on, I've got the wrong one selected because I'm an idiot. There we are, that one. Border radius of 20. Just turn the outlines off just so it's easier to see. Yeah, maybe add a shadow. Let's go 10, 15. I don't know. I think that's a bit much. This is what I mean kind of by going back and forth a bit. Because I don't have like fixed values for this stuff in my head at the moment. I'm just kind of playing around with it until I find a thing that I think looks good. And this is exactly the way I build pages normally. Like I use Convertri quite a lot, like both for like personal and business stuff. And you're definitely getting like the way I do things. Yeah. Taking that back to the so the horizontal and vertical shift are both 5 rather than 10. Like it's a lot more subtle. I think that looks a lot better. Actually, another thing I'm going to do is I think I would quite like to make this background a bit darker, just so the like the panel just pops a bit more. And we can't currently like darken images directly in Convertri. Like you'd need to like stick into Photoshop or something and play around with that and then upload that file. What we can do, and the way I tend to do these things, I'm just going to get a panel and I'm going to stick it all the way over the top. Then I'll send that all the way to the back, bring it forward 1. So now it's like it's in front of the wood backdrop, but it's behind my like my main panel. And we're going to change you to black, and we're going to whack the transparency down. So if it's at 0, it's like it's entirely transparent. So that's not actually doing anything at the moment. But then we can pull it up a bit until, and you can see like the background here. As I drag the slider up, it's slowly getting darker. So we'll do that at Yeah, 20, like 20%. I think that's all right. Now this is actually, whoops, that's what happens when you don't hit select. There we go. And this is actually the exact same technique that we used on our homepage. So you see this video that's playing in the background with this, like it's very dark, so it's so the headline pops a lot more. That's exactly the way that we had that effect as well. Jamie's asking, is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. This will, like, assuming like the recording works okay, which like it does, like 99.9% of the time. Like I think in all the webinars I've done, we've had maybe one where the recording screwed up. But assuming it works okay, then like this will be recorded. It'll go in the knowledge base. It'll just be there, like for as long as people want to watch it. So okay, so we've got like a base page, and oh no, there is actually one other thing we've got to do, and that is we need somewhere for our like terms of service and privacy policy links. So I'm going to stick those in a little footer. So I'm doing that just by adding another panel to the page, like make it fairly shallow, and then full width again. We'll change the background to no, that doesn't look good at all, does it? We don't want that color. Right, something like that I think is rather better. It's a more like woody tone was what I was going for there. And we'll just add a couple of text elements in there. So terms of service, and you can see because I set later as a default style rather than setting it in the font, that's just being applied automatically to these boxes. And we'll just make you white so you stand out. And then we'll clone that one. Yeah, privacy policy. And what we're going to do to make sure they are positioned nice is I'm going to stick another panel in here that just runs between these two guidelines. And again, we'll do the same thing. We'll send it to back, then bring it forward. So it's in front of the brown panel, but behind the text, and we're going to make that transparent. And that's all good. And the reason I'm doing that is because now I can have this panel selected, and I can use our alignment options to go horizontally contained, and that just spaces the two text boxes evenly within that backing panel. So if you switch the element outlines on, you can see there's an even amount of space between the edges and between each element. So it's a nice, easy way of making things look nice. And we'll add some links in here. Now I'm just going to link these to the Convertri terms of service for expediency. Obviously, if you were building a page like this, then you would link it to your own. And we'll make sure it opens in a new tab. There we go. Now let's have a look quickly at the mobile view and see what that looks like. That's all right. I'll take the font size down a bit, and I'll definitely shrink the size of the image. But to be honest, that's all right. That would work perfectly fine as a mobile page. So let's just again back to default styles. Take the mobile size scale and let's call that 120. Yeah, that's better. And I'll shrink you down a bit. I'm going to leave the headline at 150 because I quite like that being quite big. I'll move you two up a bit. And we'll just hold down Shift and drag that up so we get everything below it come with it. Actually, I might add a bit more space there just so there's basically a bit of clear blue water between the download button and the terms of service and privacy policy links. There, that I think will do fine. Sese, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sese saying it's hard to follow where you're going to select features. Sorry, I'll try and slow down a bit. Again, if there is anything that you would like to see again, please do drop a comment in the chat. Let me know. I'm happy to show you anything all over. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to make our question layers. So we'll go to the layers. And you can see that Convertri gives you some ready-made ones, and I'm actually going to use one of these as a base. This is one that I use quite a lot when I'm making this kind of page. So yeah, we'll just add that. So we're not going to call it webinar opt-in. We'll just call that Q1. And now obviously we're not going to want all of these elements, but I quite like using this kind of template because basically it lets you lay out everything quite nicely, and it's got nice fonts already included. It's actually our lead designer made this. He knows an awful lot about selecting this kind of stuff, and it means they're just there to use rather than running through a load of fonts and trying to work out some that work well together. So what I'm doing there is just holding down Shift and clicking on each element to multi-select, and we're just going to get rid of all them because we don't want the form on this panel. We don't want the privacy policy link either, or the close button. Now, I'm not including the close button on these question layers because I want to keep people moving all the way through the flow. I'm going to have a close button on the final opt-in layer, but not on these ones because we want to build up the momentum. We want to keep it going. So we'll delete that as well. And we'll change this to our question. And the first question I think was, how long have you been woodworking? Let's move those down. And I'm going to clone that button, holding down the Alt key and dragging the element to clone that. Damien's saying maybe in the future change your cursor to be a bit more visible. Yes, that would be a great idea, but I'm not honestly sure how you do that with GoToWebinar. I mean, it's probably possible. I'll work it out, but we'll probably have to live with it for this one. See if there's any nice easy option I can find. A couple of other people asking if there's going to be a replay or a recording. Yes, we are recording the call. It'll just go into the knowledge base. You'll be able to watch it like whenever you want. So we don't need this bit of text. But what I'm actually going to do is turn this into the indicator, because I think it's important to have an indicator, like of how, basically of how long the quiz is going to be, or how many questions that people are going to be asked. Because if you don't have, like, if it's not obvious that it's going to be quick, then like people start assuming that they're going to have like 30 questions to get through before they get the thing they want, which isn't really the effect you go for. Like, let's say people start to drop off rather than keep up, which isn't really what you want. So move those up. And I don't think we actually need anything else on here. I mean, obviously, I'll swap out the image for something a bit more relevant. I quite like this little box down here, but I don't really have anything to do with it, so I'm just going to delete that, I think. And we'll make that smaller and make the panel a bit smaller. Right, now we just want to sort out our alignments. So I'm going to, again, multi-select these two buttons. So Shift and select. Then we'll go to the alignments menu up in the quick actions up here. And we'll go with center align. And that will align them centrally within the panel. These two elements, I think, are like they're all right. I'll drag them down a little bit, I think. And we'll put you up a bit. And now we want to change this guy to something that like actually looks relevant to woodworking. So with it selected, I'm going to go into the properties panel. And then we're going to go to change image. And this one, I'm just going to search Pixabay direct from the app, because like this is a rather smaller image, so I don't mind that like we're getting like a 1920 by 1280 resolution image rather than like a big 5000 pixel one. So let's go for woodworking again. So we could do we'd use the guy with the plane, maybe? What are those chisels? Or those wood carving tools? Okay, we're going to use this guy. I was definitely getting into overthinking it at that point. Because honestly, like while you can test these things, like honestly, which image or images you use here isn't likely to make a massive difference on your conversion. So it's really not something you should worry about that much as long as it's like within the theme. Now we're going to go to image properties and we'll restore original proportions. So that doesn't look like a little bit off. We might actually want another one because that's a far narrower image. So yes, I'm going to clone that. And we'll change that image again for another one. Would help if we spelled woodworking correctly. Yeah, fine. Let's use these woodworking tools. And you see when I select that, like Convertri gets it from Pixabay, it uploads it into the image manager, which is what's going on at the moment, and we'll just add it straight onto your page. Okay, now I'm going to group those so I can just align them nicely centrally. Let's turn the element outlines off. Again, just so I can get a good idea of how it's actually going to look on the page. I mean, it's fairly obvious with even with the element outlines on, but I sometimes find having like those hot pink outlines a little bit distracting. So yeah, that's all right, but I'm gonna move these buttons down a bit. Yeah, and put a bit of space between them like that. Okay, so now we will change the button labels. So we'll go with button settings in the properties panel. Change that to less than 6 months. And I'll change you to more than 6 months. And I'm making these questions like very binary. Like, so this isn't about collecting the information. It's not about, like at this point, it's not about like segmenting the leads. It's just about getting the commitment click. And that means you want questions that are really easy to answer. And in this case, like how long have you been woodworking? It's either less than 6 months or more than 6 months. Like no one's gonna have to think about that. Like it's a simple binary choice. You should both be triggers. Okay, let's have a look at the mobile view for this layer. All right, we'll definitely need to remobilize you. Okay, I don't think we want both of these images on the mobile. So I'm gonna go back to desktop. I'm gonna switch you off. So that's selecting this bottom image. I'm gonna turn off show on mobile up in that toolbar. Go back to the mobile view. I'm just going to adjust that so it's along the top. And I think I'm going to put, I'm going to put a background on that, like on this container box. Because at the moment it's entirely transparent, and I think if I make it white, oops. Yeah, then we can get a bit of a nicer effect like that. Yeah, okay. Right, we'll just save that page. Yeah, back to the desktop view. So that's our first layer. We've not added the actions yet, because we'll do that once we've got all the layers set up. But I think that is looking okay. So switch that one off, and now we are just going to clone this layer. In fact, we're going to clone it twice. Because we don't want to go through doing all that again when basically all we're doing is changing a question. So we'll rename that to Q2. And we'll rename this one to Q3. So now on this layer, on the second question, I think that question was about it being a business or a hobby. So let's having a business or a hobby. I'm going to try and adjust the copy on this a bit because I would like to basically, obviously we can rearrange the elements to cope for the extra line, like with a longer question, but I would rather if we didn't need to. So we'll just try and rephrase it. Yeah. Change the indicator number. Change the label on the button, again in the properties panel. Apparently type with sausage fingers. Okay, I think I'll keep the images the same. Obviously, we could change them for different ones, but I think it's enough to just change the question, the buttons. So now we'll do number 3. So that was a question like, do you find theory more useful? Now you might have noticed I didn't check the mobile view on the second layer, and that's because I'm pretty certain it'll be fine. I will check it before we publish the page, but because I didn't because I made sure that the text was still taking up the same amount of space, I'm like 99.9% sure it's just going to be fine, so we don't need to worry about it. And then we'll change that to 3 of 3, and then this button, we will change the label to blueprints, and this one we will change the label to theory. Ken's asking, is there any way to split the text on the button for long answers? I mean, you can type in as much as you want, and make you can make the buttons bigger to have the extra space. Or alternatively, you don't even have to use a button element for this kind of thing. I'm doing it because it's quick and easy. But if you prefer, you can add a panel, you can add a text element, so you can arrange that however you want, and then set the trigger on that rather than on a button. So you're not limited to doing it the way I'm doing it here. So okay, so we've got our question layers. Just check the mobile quickly. Oh, there you are. See, it does need a bit of adjustment on this one. Never make assumptions. But that's fine. We'll just move that down a bit. And increase the size. Back to desktop, so we probably should check layer number 2. I mean, to be honest, we could get away with that one, but I will move things down a bit. There we are. And actually, one thing I think I'm also going to do. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I would quite like to have like this front page tied in a bit more to how the layers look. So you can see here, like there's a different font in the main question because I just took that from the template. The buttons are a bit of a different color. So I'm going to have a look at what these are, and I'm just going to change the front page to match. So that's using the Signica font. And the color is, if we go to element properties and background, we can see that is 1148.232. I'm trusting someone can remember that for me. So 1148.232. Let's go back to the main page. So let's change this to Signica. Maybe bold. Yeah. And just hit the center line to snap that back into place. And the button color. Okay, who's got the Ken, good man. 1148.232. Yes, Ernesto, the webinar is being recorded. It'll go in the knowledge base with all the others. Should be up definitely by Tuesday, probably by Monday morning, if I'm honest. But certainly by the time the update email goes out on Tuesday, it should be there, ready to go. Okay, so we've got our question layers. Now we want the answer layers, because just like with the example page that I showed earlier, we're going to have 2 different answers. So we can send people to the bit of copy that reflects what they've said they want. So we're going to need some more layers. And I'm going to use a different look for these layers. I think I'm going to have a look at the other templates that we've got. Because when they get to the when they get to the end of the questionnaire, I kind of want it to be visibly different. I want it to be like, right, all that's done, you're at the end, here's the thing you want. So these ones are probably the best bet, like opt-in 3 or opt-in 4. They're definitely the most different. So let's go for opt-in 4. Add that in. We'll call you A1 blueprints. Okay, there we go. So first thing we'll do with this is we will swap out this mock-up for the one that we used on the front page. So just change the image, click on our cover mockup and select, and you can just go in. We are also going to want to change this color of the backing panel. And this was clearly chosen in the template to match the font, but with the with this book cover that we've got, it just doesn't stand out enough. So let's just drag you up a bit. Yeah, I think that's better, and it still kind of coordinates with the with the font text. So yeah, we'll select that. Now we'll want to update this copy. So this was the blueprints layer. So let's go with say you want blueprints. We got them. So just very nice and simple. I may see headlines like this are really good in this kind of situation where our prospect has literally said I want blueprints, and so our headline is just, okay, you want blueprints, we got them. It's literally that. It's basically it's calling directly out to the thing that they've just said they want, and it's one of the reasons I really like this kind of opt-in page, because you can do that. So we'll need a bit of copy in here. That's something like Woodworkers Pro Guide contains 15 different blueprints for a wide range of skill levels. So you'll always have something to build. There we are, that'll do. Might try changing this font to Lato as well. See how that looks? Just do that quickly and up here. Nah, you know what, I'm going to put that back. I think our designer knows better than I do on this one. So, yeah, and that I think that I think is actually enough on this. We'll check the mobile view again and see how that looks. So yeah, so now we adjusted the headline. We're going to need to adjust this slightly. We'll just add a bit more space between there as well. I'd get rid of the goat on mobile. I don't think we need that. And I'm definitely going to make this smaller again. Actually, come to that, I don't think I really want the close link at the top. So yeah, okay, so we're deviating from the automobile quite a lot on this one. But that's okay. It's something you can do on Convertri. I mean, it can definitely be sometimes a bit more effort designing the mobile view, but I do like the fact that you can actually have any design you want. You're not just locked into what the software gives you. Because a lot of the time, what the software gives you is quite nice. But in cases like this, like I definitely prefer to be able to change it to the way I want. So, and yeah, we'll have the close link at the bottom. One thing we'll also do, we go back to desktop, is I am one of the people who puts 2 spaces between full stops and sentences, which I gather has just made me a complete pariah to about half the people on this call. But it's the way I learned, and I do quite like the way it looks. So, no, that's the wrong one. That was going into a default style when this text isn't actually using a default style, so that wouldn't have done any good. Now that line height is a bit much. Take it down to 1.2 maybe. Yeah, it's a bit better. Yes, Christina, typing class. That's where I learned it as well. I had a typewriter when I was 8 years old, and like it was always like 2 spaces after a full stop. Like, and that has just stuck with me forever. Couldn't really stop it if I wanted to, but I don't particularly want to because I do quite like the look of it. Okay, so that's good. We'll just go back to the mobile again. Okay, yeah, I think that'll do fine. I think there's definitely an argument for just like removing the image entirely, so we can have or like putting it at the bottom maybe, so we can have like the headline, the copy, and the form like right at the top, so it's like definitely on the screen immediately when someone loads this on a mobile. But I think it's all right where it is. Like they'll definitely be able to see the headline, and we're going to have the commitment of them like coming through the entire flow. So I don't think we're going to lose anyone through that. Okay, save that. Now we want our second answer layer. So again, we're just going to clone this one since we've done all that work adjusting it. Rename this one to A2 theory. It's okay. Now we're going to want a different headline and a slightly different bit of copy to tie into like the theory angle as opposed to the blueprints one. So we'll say let's say that'll do. That's not. I don't like that headline quite as much as the blueprints one, but it'll do fine. And now we'll say the Woodworkers Pro Guide contains step-by-step guides, full explanation of tools, joints, and everything else a pro woodworker needs. Plus video lessons. Okay, quick look at mobile. Honestly, I might have been better off just making the mobile text scaling a bit smaller for that headline, but I'm going to take the lazy option and just move stuff down. There we go. So now we've actually built everything. All we need to do now is wire up the form and the triggers to connect all the layers and flow together. So, right, so first thing we're going to do, switch off all the layers. So we're just back to the desktop. Sorry, back to the first main page. And so we're going to want to set up our triggers. So we'll go, so we've got this button selected. And element properties, we go to actions and events and add new action. And we're going to say the event type we want on a click. So when someone clicks that button, show, we're going to go fade in. And our target is layer Q1. And it doesn't really matter about the include contained elements on this one because we're showing the entire layer and everything on it. Like that's just a given. And so it doesn't matter if that's on or off. That's more about if you're applying an action to an element on the page as opposed to a layer. So we'll hit done. So that's that action set up. Now we'll go to the question layer. And we want to do the same thing on all of these buttons. So element properties, actions and events, add new action. And again, on click, action is show and then fade in. And the target in this case is layer Q2. So we're moving them from question 1 to question 2. We'll put the same one on the second button. And that's all done. Do the same thing on the Q2 layers. This one's going to move to layer Q3. So add new action, event type, on click, fade in, and target Q3. Same thing on the hobby button. On click, fade in, layer Q3. Got someone saying they've got sound issues. Can everyone still hear me okay? Yep, okay. Everyone else seems to be saying it's fine. So hopefully that was just at their end, or possibly I was talking a bit quiet. So, okay, so we'll go back to now on layer Q3. This one is a little bit different because we want each of these buttons to open a different layer. So on the blueprints one, again back to properties, so actions and events, add new action. And again, event type will be on click, action, show, fade in, and the target. In this case, like it's the blueprints button, so we're going with layer A1 blueprints. And that's also why I actually put the name like blueprints in there rather than just calling them A1 and A2, just so it's like it's obvious like which one I need to connect it to, and I don't have to worry about making sure I've got the right one. And we'll have the theory one appear when you click this button. So event type on click, show, fade in, target A2 theory. And now we have the answer layers. Now these have the forms, and also these ones do actually have a close action. And you might have noticed that I wasn't setting up any close actions on the questions. So it was just opening those layers on top of one another. And that's fine, like for showing the questions, because with this page that I've built, they're just full page layers. So they just come like over the top of each other. And because I cloned them, like the actual content was just perfectly aligned over the top every time. That does mean with the close one, like I'm going to want to set close actions for every layer on this close element, but that's a fairly quick thing to do. So again, we'll select that element, element properties, actions and events. Now we've already got one action on here for fading out this layer because that just comes with the layer template, though I am going to adjust it because I don't want it to fade out, I just want it to hide. Yeah, that. Convertri sometimes take a little while to update when I'm also running GoToWebinar on top of it. So again, that's hide layer A1. And now we want to add more actions on the same element to close all the other layers as well. So on click, the action is hide, and we'll close layer Q1. We'll add another action, again on click, hide, layer Q2, and we'll do the same for Q3. And let's say, like, you don't need to set it up the way I'm setting it up here. Like, there's nothing stopping you like actually putting the close actions on the questions as well, so they close one layer and open the other one at the same time. I just prefer to do it this way because I find it quicker. But it's really entirely up to you. Okay, we also need to set up the form on this layer, but I'm going to do the actions on the other layer first and then come back to that. So again, select the close button, actions and events, and we want to edit that action that came with, and we'll set up all the close actions for the question as well. So on click, hide, and we'll just run through Q1, Q2, Q3. Stephen's saying, can we clone the button and it also clones the action? Yes, I believe that will work fine. It's it's not something I've done on here because these close actions just came with the layer. It is something I could have done on the on the question layers. Like I could have set up like an action on one button and then clone that. It's really just about what workflow works best for you, I think. Okay, so that's all our actions. Now we need the form. So we need to set up the form. Like we just need to set up the form once, and then we need to make sure that the fields are, or the form inputs have their types assigned on both layers. And we'll just check you're actually set to be a submit button. Yep, it's all good. The button type for a button that actually submits a form, if you go into Properties panel and then Button Settings, the type has to be Submit, because that's the one that will tell Convertri to send the form data to whatever autoresponder or checkout service you've got wired up. And certainly coming from a template like that one should have been Submit already, which it was, but it certainly doesn't do any harm to check. So we will now add the form to the page. So we'll click on the Forms button in that top toolbar, and then go to autoresponders. I'm going to use like one of the APIs. I'm going to use MailChimp because that is the autoresponder I've got connected to this account. and we'll use our standard demo list. So we have our types assigned. First name for the first name field, email for the email field. You'll notice that some of these are fixed, some of them you get the choice. Which ones are fixed depends on the API. Like every API has a different set of fixed fields and different fields that you can adjust. MailChimp just has email fixed and the rest are available. Next, we need a thank you page, but I haven't built a thank you page as part of this demo, so I'll just stick Google in there for now. Obviously, you would put your actual thank you page URL in this box if you were setting up a similar page. And that's done. So that form is set up. Now we just need to check the types on these fields. So we'll select the input, we'll go to the properties panel and form field settings. And this one is set to full name. The fields we've got, or the types we've got wired up to the autoresponder form are email and first name, so I'm going to change that to first name. If we left it as full name, without full name being assigned in the form dialog we just looked at, then that data wouldn't go anywhere because Convertri would be looking for the input that had the first name type attached, and there wouldn't be one, which is why we're picking first name here. And then this one is already email, so that's all good. So we'll save that. Now we'll just go to the other answer layer. And the form's already set up, we don't need to do that again. I will check the types. So again, that one should be first name. And then that is email. So we'll save that. But we now have our page entirely built. So let's just switch the layers off and we will publish it. Where should we put that? Let's put that at demo/quiz1. And now let's have a look at it, moment of truth. We'll see if I've wired everything up right. View page. Okay, so there is our page. It's there live. So there is question 1, question 2, question 3. Let's go with theory. And we get our theory layer. And if we hit close, there we go. We go back to the start. So that is the full build process for a quiz opt-in, or a quiz style opt-in, I should say. Like obviously it's not a real quiz, like we're not collecting this information as such, it's just about putting that style in there to get the extra commitment. But that is how you build this kind of thing in Convertri. And that was our first live build. I hope you found it useful. So let's have a look and see what questions have come up. And obviously, like if you want to ask anything, please do feel free. So Rene is asking, if you set up the actions on one layer and then clone it, will all the actions also be cloned? I think they will, but you'll need to, like they will be direct clones. So if they're referring to elements like on that older layer, then they will still refer to those elements because the entire action will be cloned over. So you'll probably need to change the name on the target elements and then edit the action to target the one you want. Christine's asking, shouldn't you also require the name? That's a good point. It's absolutely something you can do. It's not necessary in the way email is, because like if an autoresponder doesn't have an email, it just can't collect the lead at all. Like that's one of the reasons that MailChimp just forces it. But there's certainly no harm in, well, I say that. There's not really any harm in requiring a name in that, like it won't make a huge amount of difference. It will, like we can just switch that on to required. It will reduce your conversions a little bit. That's another experiment we did. I think that like requiring a name as well as requiring an email decreased conversions by about 10%, if I remember right. I'm not sure I've got that entirely right, but we definitely wrote a blog post on it a while ago. Which is fine. Like if the name is important to you and your marketing, then like it could well be worth like reducing conversions a bit to get the extra data. I generally just make the email required and leave the name as optional, but it's entirely up to you. Richard's saying, shouldn't you change your label to first name? Again, you certainly can. I don't think it matters. Like, if I was building this page, I wouldn't think it would matter too much because I don't mind, like, if someone's putting their email into the autoresponder or if putting their data into the autoresponder. I don't mind if I just get Neil or if I get Neil Merton in that field. But if you want to make it like specific, that's absolutely something you can do. If we go to input properties in the properties panel, then we can just change that to enter your first name. And that will just update direct on the page. George is asking, can we make a progress bar for longer questionnaires? We don't have a progress bar element in Convertri. What I've done on this page, if we just pull up, and you have to turn you off. Like I've just put a simple numerical indicator. You can, like if you've got code for a progress bar, like if someone's given you like a bit of JavaScript or similar, then you can add that via a custom HTML element, which you can get from the elements toolbar here. So drag that on, click Edit HTML, and you can stick your code in, and that will just appear on your page. You can also build more complicated progress bars from the elements in Convertri. One thing you could possibly do, I've not actually tried this yet, so let's see if this works the way I think it will. If we have like a very narrow panel, and if we set background, if we try a gradient background, maybe if we go for like that kind of blue, and make the other one a white. Okay, I think I actually want to set those colors up the other way around. But if you get the idea on this kind of thing, like you could possibly like have a you could create an element like this, stick that in the top, and have that as like different widths, maybe, like depending on how far through the questionnaire they are. That would be one option for doing it entirely in Convertri. Richard's asking, where did they download the ebook? That isn't something we set up on this page. Like this was just building like the opt-in page itself. For that, you can set up a thank you page where you can set up a download button, or you can put the link to your to your ebook on like in the link of an email. So for something like that, I'd probably host the ebook on something like S3 and then add the link in the first email. That also encourages people to add like a genuine email in the thank you box. Daniel's asking, will the Facebook pixel and parameters go through the whole funnel? They will if you switch on pass on parameters. I'll just show you where that is. So on any element with a link, if we go to general properties, you'll see a toggle here for pass on parameters. See, it's grayed out on this one because this isn't a link element. But if there was a link attached to this, you could switch on pass on URL parameters, and that would pass your parameters through to whatever that page was. You can also, in the form setup, if you go to the thank you page URL box, you can see there is a toggle for pass on submitted form data to thank you page, and that will also pass on, like as well as passing on the parameters in the form, that will pass on any like parameters that you've got coming in like from ads or similar. Raj is asking, is there a way to collect the information for a poll to connect that to the email? That's not really what Convertri is set up for, though you could do a similar kind of thing if you had, like if you set this up so there was stages of a form the full way through. Bear with me, I think I'm going to have to demo this a little bit to show you what I mean. So if like rather than having the buttons here, you had a drop down element, and if we set that to custom drop down of no, it's the wrong one. So less than 6 months. More than 6 months. Yeah. So you set it up for something like that. So someone would, now they would come to this question, they would choose the answer from the drop-down, and you had a submit button. Or you had a button below that then moved them on to the next layer. So they choose their answer and then click the button to move on, but the button doesn't have the actual answer on it. And then when they sign up on the form at the end, you can attach, or you can connect these fields to autoresponder fields like you can, just like you can with the form that I showed you on the answer layer. By choosing like one of the types. So you can have that go to an autoresponder field, or you can use Convertri's form to email system to have the whole set of data sent to you. So I don't think it'd be perfect. There would be, like, you wouldn't be able to force answers at any point. But you could do it that way, I think. I'd need to experiment a little bit. But possibly if that works, I can do like a quick video showing you how to set that up as well. I imagine it might be a bit hard to follow when I'm just kind of brainstorming, like direct on a call like this. Yes, Ken raises a good point here as well. And for the pass on parameters, like you can change the button to a link. and then after that use toggle on pass on parameters. If you can then change it back to say a trigger type, and pass on parameters will remain on. So you can also do it that way. Leon's asking, can you recommend good tutorials on passing parameters through the URL from one app to another? I mean, in Convertri, I don't think there's a huge amount more to it than switching on that toggle. So again, if we just do as Ken suggests and just switch that to a link type briefly, then switch on pass on URL parameters that way. In Convertri, I don't think there's any more to it than that. Is there were you looking for something else? Were you looking for a bit what kind of information to send through, that kind of thing? Richard's saying for a progress bar, you could also extend the small bar by thirds for each question. Yep, you absolutely could. That's actually quite a good idea. Yeah, I like that. So this bar here can get longer as you go through the quiz. That's quite neat. Jason's asking, what is the function of pass on URL parameters again? So URL parameters are something that's often used to track ads. So you might have seen query strings on ads that on URLs when you've clicked through from an ad. So it go to like www.convertri.com. Actually, let me throw on a quick text element just so I can show this a bit better. In fact, let's just adapt this headline. That'll be easy. So you might see something like convertri.com and then a query string, which will look something like that. So this bit here is the query string, and the parameter is source equals Facebook. And what people use this for is to send, basically to track information through the funnel. So if this parameter is passed all the way through, to the form, then I can have this, I can have this bit here, the Facebook section. I can have that added into an autoresponder field. So I can see how many of my leads came from Facebook, how many of them came from Google, how many of them came from everywhere else. And that's obviously quite a good way of seeing what ads, what ads you should keep running, what sources you should try with more ads, that kind of thing. And the way you pass those on in Convertri is for wherever there's a link, either with the form submit or just on a button, is if you go to element properties, and then in general properties, you toggle on pass on URL parameters, and all of this will be passed through rather than being stripped out. Ken's saying you can also write a custom script to pass on the head and body script as well. Yep, that's definitely true. It's not, Convertri doesn't have a toggle for that, but it's quite right. You can add a custom script to do that for you. Yeah, Jason, that's exactly it. You can keep track of an affiliate ID or a subscriber ID. Yeah, that's exactly what it's used for. Leon's saying, I was looking for information besides what Convertri does on how to actually pass parameters from one app to another. That will depend very much on the apps you're trying to pass things between. As I can show you how to do it with Convertri. It's going to be a different process for all the apps you're trying to send them through. What you might find useful is a traffic or an ad running course, because like I was describing with this like source equals Facebook, ads, like people who run paid ads use these codes quite a lot for tracking the performance of the different campaigns. So they would probably have quite a lot of good information on how to set this up for a wide range of different ads. Oh, sorry, a wide range of different platforms, and like the different things you can pass through between them. So, have a little bit more water. Ken's asking, do you have any way to install a pixel other than passing on a head script? It's always a custom script. It doesn't have to be in the head. You can add it in the body as well if that's where the script wants to go. But it will always be like via a custom script through Convertri. For doing that at page level, you can add custom scripts via the page settings menu. So you can add custom scripts in here. I guess you could also use a custom HTML element. So just drag that onto the page and hit edit HTML and put that in there. That would also work. I don't think it would make any material difference, like in terms of how the script worked. Okay, I've actually got a question for you lot as well now, because this is the first live build type thing that we've done. The other webinars that I tend to run for this kind of thing, like some of you may well have been on them. Like we do like a getting started webinar, like once every couple of weeks, but that's basically the same presentation every time. I always know what page I'm building, is to try and get people started with the app. With this one, I was trying to do a far more stream of consciousness kind of process. So you could see the thought process that I use going into making a page. So was it useful? Was this helpful to you? Okay, got a few yeses coming in, so that's definitely good. Is there what would have made it more useful to you? Because I'd definitely be interested in doing more of these if people will find them useful. So if there's different types of page that you'd like to see live builds for, that's certainly something we can run. Okay, Joe's saying could do with being able to see the cursor. Yep, that's a fair point. I will see if there's any way I can make that a bit more obvious on GoToWebinar. I'm not honestly sure if there is or not. If I was just recording this as a video, then I can definitely put the big yellow cursor around it. I'm not sure if that's something I can do on this platform, but I'll have a look and see. Richard's asking, are there any questionnaire templates we can simply modify? I don't think there's direct questionnaire templates in the template selector. But there's, let's say, I just adapted layer templates for the kind of thing that we built here. We could probably get some layer templates that are more focused on just straight questions as opposed to having an opt-in to adjust. If that's something people would find useful, we could probably get those added in. Chris is asking, like, when you add update scripts, you have to then republish all your pages. Is there a way to publish all the pages in a campaign? Not at the moment, though it is fairly high on the dev list. Like, it's something that I've wanted for quite a while to get in there. We've got a few. We're spinning a few plates at the moment in terms of the dev work that's going on. I'm hoping to have that. Like, I'm hoping to get that worked on relatively soon. That being said, I don't know how hard a job it is, so I don't know how long it's going to take the developer to, well, develop. George is saying a demo of how to integrate Convertri with Quizitri would be useful. That's actually something that's pretty simple. I can show you here in the more elements section of the elements toolbar. There is an element for a Quizitri quiz. So it's fairly easy like this to get like a Quizitri quiz just direct on your page. And then like once you've got your quiz, once you've published it in Quizitri, you can just take the URL, stick it in the properties panel here, and that will obviously change to like whatever your quiz is. In terms of getting people at the end of the quiz sent to the right Convertri page, that will be set up in Quizitri itself. But that's possibly something we can also look at, seeing if there's that we can probably do. Not sure I'd need a full webinar, but I could probably do a quick video showing you how to like connect a different set of Convertri pages to different outcomes in Quizitri. Can you still include images in Quizitri questions and answers? Yeah, I believe so. We've certainly like never taken that out of the app. Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Like I say, I'm happy to answer anything like on like the build you just saw, on Convertri as a whole, or like any marketing stuff, anything else. Ken's saying he's tried a couple of other third-party quiz tools, but found it a bit limited by the iframe. That's probably the way most of them will end up getting added onto the page. I'm not sure if we can do deeper integrations than that. That would probably, I mean, to an extent, that'll depend on how popular like the given tools are. The more popular they are, the more we can afford to work on something a bit more complicated. Okay, we seem to be pretty much done here. I'll hang around for another couple of minutes. So if you do have any questions that you want to ask, please do. Well, I say I'm quite happy to hang around until everyone is done. And I do appreciate as well all of you that have stuck with us for the now almost 2 hours on this call. So that's a decently sized movie. So yeah, thanks for sticking with it. And I hope you found it useful. It was certainly a bit of an experiment in terms of whether this kind of thing would be useful to people. But a lot of people seem to have certainly found it helpful. So I'm really glad that helped out. Ken's saying, if I remember, there was a button animation script available. Is that still there? The animation script we used to recommend was it was an app called Click Animate. They got discontinued, and I think they were bought out by someone, but I can't remember who it is. I'll try and find out the name and stick it in the group if I can. Richard's asking, is there a link to previous videos like this? Yep, in our knowledge base, we go to help.convertri.com. So we have a section here on training webinars, and that's got a range of different training calls that we've done. There's a couple of like general getting started ones. There's one that's quite popular on like basically creating the full funnel. That's like opt-in to checkout. Just sort by A to Z, that looks better. So yeah, so creating the full funnel from opt-in to checkout. So that's like a full funnel workthrough. The keeping your clients' doors open was one that's about how to help your clients through like the current lockdown situation. Actually, this one here, the interview with Jim Rigney. Jim is one of our probably one of our oldest users. He has been using Convertri to build an agency for quite some time. He's made far more money with it than I have, if I'm honest. He's very very good at what he does, and we did an interview with him I think about a year ago, where he was talking about like how he's built his business, like how he's done it. So that's a really good one. But this like this recording as well, this will go in this section once it's like done and rendered. So that'll be up there ready for you to watch whenever you want. Richard's asking, are you one of the founders of Convertri? Yes, I am. It's me and Andy are the two founders. And if we just go back to the contact page, so like I say, I'm the one in the hat. Andy is the one without the hat. So yeah, we founded Convertri like I think about 4 years ago, more like 4.5 now. Ken saying, have you experimented with the number of questions, like as few as 2 or as many as 5? We have a bit, yes. I certainly like 3 as the optimal number for the kind of like pages that I build. So for this kind of thing where like it is just about the commitment, I quite like 3 as like 2 simple questions to build momentum, 1 question that is like segmenting them off to different answer pages or to different answer forms, so you can like tailor the message. I find that works quite well. That said, you don't necessarily need that many. Like you could just have the 2. I I don't think I certainly wouldn't go above 5, because like certainly after a certain point, like people are just going to look at the progress indicator or they're going to look at the number and decide like it's just not worth enough of their time. Obviously, if you're actually collecting the information, then you just have as many as you need. But yeah, I consider 3 the optimal. 4 at a push. Ken's saying you're doing a much better job than ClickFunnels. So thank you very much, Ken. They are clearly like they're definitely like the big dogs in our space, but it's nice to know we're doing better for some people. And honestly, like I do definitely believe we have the better product, because I mean, Like, I'm sure ClickFunnels think they have the better product as well, because you kind of have to, like, when you're doing this stuff. But it's good to know people agree. Okay, do we have any more questions? Right, that seems to be it. So once again, thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for coming along. I hope you found it I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it fun. Like I actually did. Got to say, it's like, I'm not a very webinar-y kind of person. Coming into this entirely fresh thing, like, that I wasn't entirely sure what I was doing. I hadn't rehearsed it at all, like, because it was meant to be a fresh build. Honestly, that kind of thing is kind of terrifying for me, but I'm glad to know it went well. Like, I certainly feel like it did. So, yeah, thank you very much for coming along, and I'll hopefully see you at the next one of these we run. Have a fantastic day.